right, let's now talk about a story that started to break last week, and I just thought we'd take a breath, and then come back, back round, and have a talk about it, because it's certainly generated quite a lot of heat online and political heat as well. The governor's moving to overturn Foreshore and Seabed court decision over Maori rights, because it said the Court of Appeal didn't really do what the government, when it had passed this law, intended it to. Now, I'm going to approach this story like I'm a child, and I have no idea what it's about, so we're going to go back to basics, and we're going to walk through it very, very slowly, and helping me on my journey of discovery is someone who's been on about this issue for a while, Muriel Newman from the New Zealand Centre for Political Research. She joins us on the phone now. Muriel, lovely to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
All right, let us go back to the law or the issue that starts all this. Maori customary claim to or rights to the foreshore and seabed.
Yeah, so if you remember under, when New Zealand was formed, it was British common law that became our law. And under British common law, the foreshore and seabed was always owned by the Crown on behalf of everyone. And so that's the way it was in New Zealand as well. There was a Court of Appeal judgment in the 60s which confirmed that the foreshore and seabed belonged in Crown ownership to be. Is
this the same as what was called the Queen's Chain, Muriel?
No, that's a different matter. That's a strip, isn't it? An esplanade strip along the edge. The foreshore and seabed is defined as, I think I'm right, from the mean high water mark to the edge of the territorial sea. And in other words, it's the part of the beach that gets wet every day.
Ah, okay, I got you, yeah.
This is in a way why it was always owned by the Crown, because, nobody could actually put up their stake and live there because they get wet, when the tide came in. So it was, as I say, always owned by the Crown. And so the law was really pretty uncontroversial until 2003, when the Court of Appeal under Sean Elias at the time, in looking into a case where a iwi down in the Marlborough Sounds from memory had claimed the foreshore and seabed because they couldn't get a marine farming licence from their council. And so they thought, well, let's, claim the foreshore and seabed. And what the Court of Appeal decided was that there could be some customary rights still existing in the foreshore and seabed. So what happened as a result of there could be was that there was an absolute flood of claims, hundreds of claims poured in for the foreshore and seabed right out to the edge of our exclusive economic zone. So it went for miles. And the Labour government at the time, they were pretty much overwhelmed by all of this, and so they decided in their wisdom to reaffirm Crown ownership, and they passed the Foreshore and Seabed Act in 2004.
Which upset Tariana Turia, and then there were the Wreckers and Haters, and Helen Clark stuck her foot in, and it got quite... it made the Maori Party, didn't it?
Yes, well, that's right. So Tariana Turia formed the Maori Party, and their primary issue and policy was always to have Maori ownership of the foreshore and seabed. And so, anyway, everything sort of carried on. The new Foreshore and Seabed Act allowed for claims, but the bar was set very high, and the claims gave any successful claimant guardianship rights. It didn't give ownership of the foreshore and seabed. And then, of course, we had National formed a government with the Maori Party in 2008, and in 2009-10, the new idea of this Marine and Coastal Area Act was mooted, and then it passed into law in 2011.
All right, now can I just clarify this, and from my reading, and I'm going to try and be very simple with it, and back then in 9-10, it went from if you could prove uninterrupted customary use from 1840 to the present day, you kind of qualified for having some special rights, some customary rights, right, over an area. What the 2009-2010 decision decided was you didn't have to have exercised that exclusive customary right from 1840.
You had to have still had exclusive use and occupation, but in that earlier legislation, you also had to have lived near your claim.
Okay.
And that was to take account of the fact that the tide came in every day.
Yeah.
So, in other words, if you lived next door, across the dry part of the beach, then your exclusive use and occupation was pretty much, similar to ownership because, you were sort of there.
Which doesn't seem that unreasonable, to be honest.
No, well, this is right. But what they found was that, not many claimants were successful. Whether or not it was not enough decided to take a case, it's a bit unclear now. But certainly the new law lowered the bar, so you didn't have to live next to your claimed area. And it put the whole area, if you remember, into a no man's land, so nobody owned it. And so it opened the door for tribal claims. And when the law was passed in 2011, there was a 7-year, it might have been 6-year window of opportunity for tribal groups to put in their claims. And, just a handful started dribbling in, and then maybe it got up to 30 or 40. And we all sort of sat back and thought, it's all quite reasonable. And then on the eve of the deadline, for the 7-year deadline, almost 600 claims flooded in. And obviously this is, some sort of plan that they would put them in at the last minute.
So all of New Zealand's foreshore and seabed was under claim?
That's right, many times over. So most of the claims are completely overlapping. And
but what's wrong with that if they follow the right rules?
Well, the point was that when the law was changed, remember that, it was a law for all New Zealanders, and the government of the day said, look, we're setting the bar high. Yeah. Maori will be able to claim. They will get rights akin to ownership. It's not complete ownership, but similar. And but it'll be few and far between, a bit like the Court of Appeal had said in 2003. Yeah. And so Chris Finlayson, who was a minister in charge of the legislation, reassured the public that no more than about 10% of the coast would end up in tribal hands.